You keep chasing peace, but every step toward it takes you further away. Isn't that curious? You run toward the horizon, and the horizon runs from you. You reach for stillness, and your very reaching disturbs the water. It's like trying to smooth out the wrinkles in a bedsheet by pulling on it frantically. The more you pull, the more wrinkles you create. And yet, here we all are, generation after generation, chasing after peace as if it were somewhere else, as if it were something we don't already have. Now, I want you to consider something rather strange. When you think about peace, what comes to mind? Perhaps you imagine yourself on a beach at sunset, or in a quiet room with candles, or maybe in some future moment when all your problems have finally been solved. But notice what's happening here. You've placed peace in time, you've put it somewhere other than now, you've made it conditional. You've said to yourself, perhaps without even realizing it, I will be peaceful when. And that little word when is the trap door through which your peace falls and disappears. Because peace, you see, is not an achievement. It's not a trophy you win after running the race of life correctly. It's not the prize at the end of a long journey of self-improvement. Peace is what you are when you stop running. It's what remains when you cease all this furious activity of trying to get somewhere else, trying to be someone else, trying to feel something other than what you're feeling right now. Think of it this way. You are a pond. When you're still, you reflect the sky perfectly. The clouds, the trees, the mountains, everything appears in perfect clarity on your surface. But when you agitate yourself, when you stir up your waters trying to become a better pond, trying to reflect more beautifully, what happens? You create ripples. You disturb the very stillness that allows the reflection to appear. And then you think, oh no, I'm not peaceful enough, I'm not still enough, and you stir yourself up even more trying to fix it. You see the comedy of it. We've been taught, haven't we, that peace is something you practice, that if you meditate enough, breathe correctly enough, think positively enough, eliminate enough stress from your life, eventually you'll arrive at this peaceful state. And I'm not saying those things don't have their place, but here's the trick that nobody tells you. Peace isn't produced by practice. Practice simply removes the obstacles to recognizing the peace that's already here. It's like cleaning a window. The light was always shining through, you were just too busy scrubbing to notice it. There's a magnificent irony in all of this. The spiritual seeker, the one desperately searching for enlightenment or peace or awakening, is like someone who's lost their glasses while wearing them. They're looking everywhere, asking everyone, have you seen my glasses? I can't find my glasses. And someone finally says, they're on your face. And the seeker says, no, those can't be them. The glasses I'm looking for are special glasses. These are just ordinary glasses. You see, we become so accustomed to seeking that we can't recognize what we already have. Now let me ask you something. In this very moment, right now as you're listening to these words, is there actually a problem? I don't mean the story of your problems, the narrative you carry about what's wrong with your life. I mean right now in the actual present moment. Is there really a problem? Or is there simply what is? The sound of these words, the sensation of breathing, perhaps the feeling of your body sitting or standing or moving. When you drop the story, when you stop projecting into the future or rehashing the past, what's actually wrong with this moment as it is? Most likely, you'll find that there's nothing wrong with now. The problem is always about then, what happened before, or what might happen later. Peace is sacrificed on the altar of time. We trade the peace of this moment for the anxiety about the next moment. We're like a child sitting in a beautiful garden, crying because the garden will someday be gone. The child misses the garden entirely by worrying about its ending. And here's where it gets really interesting. The mind, bless it, thinks its job is to solve the problem of peace. It thinks, if I can just figure this out, if I can just get the right technique, the right understanding, the right circumstances, then I'll be peaceful. But the mind is an instrument for dealing with problems and creating distinctions. It's a knife that cuts reality into pieces so you can manage them, manipulate them, use them. Asking the mind to find peace is like asking a saw to create silence. The very activity of the tool is what prevents what you're looking for. The mind says, I am here and peace is there. How do I get from here to there? But this is the fundamental confusion. It creates a separation where none exists. It's like your left hand asking how to reach your right hand. There's no distance to cross. The separation is imaginary. Let me tell you about water. Water doesn't try to be water. A river doesn't wake up in the morning and think, "Today I must practice flowing more perfectly. Today I must achieve the state of ultimate riveriness." It simply flows. And when it encounters a rock, it doesn't have an existential crisis about it. It doesn't think, "This rock shouldn't be here. This rock is preventing me from being a peaceful river." It simply flows around it or over it and continues being what it is. The rock becomes part of the river's dance, not an obstacle to it. But we humans, we encounter a rock, a difficulty, a frustration, a person who annoys us, and we stop our flowing. We bash ourselves against the rock. We argue with the rock. We make the rock mean something about our worth as a river. We forget how to flow. We forget that we are the flowing, not the one who must achieve flowing. You. See, peace isn't a state you enter. It's not like walking into a room. Peace is what you are when you stop pretending to be what you're not. It's what remains when all the false identifications fall away. All your life you've been told that you are this separate individual, isolated in a bag of skin, trying to make your way in a hostile universe. And from that premise, of course, you're not peaceful. From that premise, life becomes a constant struggle to protect yourself, to get what you need, to become what you should be. But what if that premise is wrong? What if you're not separate at all? What if you're not a noun but a verb, not a thing but a happening, not an isolated entity but a focal point in an infinite web of relationships? The wave thinks it's separate from the ocean until it realizes it is ocean happening in the form of a wave. The cloud thinks it's separate from the sky until it recognizes it is sky, temporarily condensed into visible form. When you truly see this, not just intellectually but in your bones, peace isn't something you need to find. You realize you are peace, temporarily taking the form of a person. You are silence, momentarily taking the form of sound. You are stillness, dancing is movement. But the mind rebels against this. It says, "That's all very poetic, but I have real problems. I have bills to pay, relationships that are difficult, a body that gets sick, a world that's falling apart." You can't just philosophy your way out of real suffering. And that's absolutely true. I'm not suggesting you pretend problems don't exist or bypass genuine difficulties. I'm pointing to something more subtle. The problems themselves aren't what disturb your peace. It's your relationship to the problems. It's the story you tell about them, the meaning you assign to them, the identity you build around them. Two people can face the same difficulty and one is destroyed by it while the other grows through it. The difference isn't in the difficulty itself, but in the space around it, the awareness that holds it. When you're identified with the problem, when you are the problem, there's no peace. You're a drowning person thrashing in the water. But when you remember that you are also the water, not just the drowning person, something shifts. The difficulty doesn't necessarily disappear, but it's held in a larger context. You're the ocean experiencing a storm on its surface, and yes, the storm is real and powerful, but you're also the vast depths that remain undisturbed. This is why chasing peace never works. Chasing implies a chaser and a chased, a subject and an object, a here and a there. It reinforces the very separation that's the root of your unrest. The chaser is inherently at odds with what it chases. The pursuer is inherently separate from the pursued. As long as you're chasing, you're confirming that you don't have what you seek. It's like the old tale of the man who searched everywhere for his horse while sitting on his horse. He asked everyone, "Have you seen my horse?" And people would point at the horse he was sitting on, and he'd say, "No, that's not the one I'm looking for. The one I'm looking for is special." He'd traveled for years, exhausted himself, spent all his money, all while sitting on what he sought. So, what's the alternative? What do you do if you can't chase peace? Well, nothing. And that nothing is everything. You stop. You become still. Not the stillness of suppression, not the stillness of holding your breath, but the stillness of no longer trying to be anything other than what you are. You allow this moment to be exactly as it is without needing it to be different. This is harder than it sounds because we're so conditioned to do, to achieve, to become. We're addicted to improvement. We're hooked on progress. The idea of simply being without going anywhere or becoming anything strikes us as lazy or irresponsible or insufficient. We think, If I'm not striving, I'm stagnating. If I'm not becoming better, I'm getting worse. But there's a difference between natural growth and neurotic striving. A tree grows, but it doesn't strive. It doesn't lie awake at night worrying about whether it's treeing correctly. It simply does what a tree does, and in that doing, growth happens naturally. When you stop the neurotic striving, when you cease the exhausting project of trying to manufacture a better you, life continues. Things still happen, you still act, still respond, still engage with the world, but there's an ease to it, a naturalness, because you're no longer fighting against what is. And here's a secret. When you stop chasing peace, when you let go of the whole project, peace shows up on its own. Not because you've achieved it or earned it or figured it out, but because you've simply removed the obstacles to it. You've stopped creating the disturbance. The pond settles naturally when you stop stirring it. You don't have to make it settle. You just have to stop stirring. But, and this is crucial, you can't stop stirring in order to make it settle, because then you're stirring again. You're doing not stirring as a technique to achieve stillness, which is just another form of stirring. It's like trying to fall asleep. The more you try, the more awake you become. Sleep happens when you stop trying to sleep. Peace happens when you stop trying to be peaceful. This is the ultimate paradox, the cosmic joke. You can't get there from here because you're already there. You can't find what you are. You can't achieve what you already have. The journey is the obstacle. The seeker is what must be lost for the sought to be found. And this might sound frustrating. You might think, well then, I'm stuck. If seeking prevents finding, but I can't deliberately stop seeking because that's just another form of seeking, what am I supposed to do? And the answer is nothing and everything. Let the seeking exhaust itself. Let it run its course. See through it. Understand the futility of it not as a concept, but as a lived reality. Seeking will naturally drop when you truly see that it doesn't work, the same way you'd naturally drop a hot coal once you realize it's burning you. You can't fake this realization. You can't force it. It comes in its own time through its own grace. But you can stop fighting. You can stop resisting this moment as it is. You can notice the voice in your head that says this moment isn't enough, that you should be somewhere else, feeling something else, being someone else. And in that noticing, in that simple awareness, there's already peace. Not the peace you imagined, not the peace you read about in books or saw in pictures, but the peace of simply being here as you are, without argument. Think of how you feel when you're in nature, perhaps walking in a forest or sitting by the ocean. What brings that sense of peace? Is it that nature has achieved some special state of enlightenment? Of course not. It's that nature doesn't argue with itself. The tree doesn't wish it were taller. The ocean doesn't regret being salty. The mountain doesn't worry about its appearance. They simply are what they are, and in that simple being, there's a profound peace that you can feel when you're near them. You have that same capacity. You are nature too, after all. You're not separate from the natural world, observing it from outside. You're a part of it, an expression of it. The same intelligence that grows trees and turns acorns into oaks is what's beating your heart and breathing your breath right now. When you align with that, when you stop fighting it with your ideas of who you should be and what should be happening, you rediscover the peace that's always been your nature. But we've been educated out of this. We've been taught to trust our thoughts more than our direct experience. We've been told that thinking about life is more important than living it. We've become so hypnotized by our own narratives, our own concepts, our own ideas about how things should be, that we've lost touch with the raw, immediate reality of what actually is. Right now, for instance, there are sounds happening. Perhaps you can hear them. Maybe there's the hum of traffic, or birds, or the wind, or the sound of silence itself. These sounds aren't good or bad, they simply are, but the mind immediately labels them. That's a pleasant sound, that's an unpleasant sound, I wish that would stop, I want more of that. And in that labeling, in that judging, in that preferencing, you separate yourself from the direct experience. You step out of what is and into your thoughts about what is. And peace, which is found in the direct experience, is lost in the thinking about the experience. This is why all the great wisdom traditions point to presence, to awareness, to being here now, not because the present moment is special or sacred in itself, but because it's the only place where life actually happens. The past is memory, the future is imagination. But this moment right here, this is where reality is occurring, and when you're fully here, not lost in your thoughts about being here, not trying to be more here than you already are, but simply here in the most ordinary, natural way. You discover that peace was never absent. You were just absent from the present. And you know what's really amusing about all this? Even after you see through the game, even after you recognize the futility of chasing, the chasing might continue for a while. The body has its habits, the mind has its momentum. The difference is that you're no longer fooled by it. You see it happening, this automatic reaching for something other than what is, but you're not identified with it anymore. It's like watching a movie and knowing it's a movie. The drama still unfolds on the screen, but you're no longer lost in it, no longer believing that it's ultimately real. This is freedom, not the absence of movement, but the absence of the belief that the movement matters in the way you thought it did. Not the cessation of thoughts, but the recognition that you are not your thoughts. Not the achievement of some permanent peaceful state, but the understanding that peace doesn't need to be permanent to be real, to be valuable, to be enough. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that if something isn't permanent, it isn't real or valuable. We chase permanent peace, permanent happiness, permanent anything. But life isn't permanent. Life is change, it's flow, it's impermanence itself. Trying to grasp permanent peace in an impermanent world is like trying to step in the same river twice. The river has already moved on, the moment has already passed, but there's peace in this too, in the acceptance of impermanence. When you stop fighting the fundamental nature of existence, when you stop demanding that things stay the same or be different than they are, when you release that exhausting grip, there's a profound relaxation that occurs. Not relaxation into complacency or apathy, but relaxation into life as it actually is, not as you wish it would be. Let me tell you something about desire. We think desire is the enemy of peace. We've been told to eliminate desire, to transcend it, to rise above it. But this creates another battle, another war within yourself. Now you're desiring to not desire. You're chasing the state of desirelessness, and so the wheel turns, the game continues, just wearing a different costume. The truth is more nuanced. Desire itself isn't the problem. Desire is natural. It's life expressing itself through you. The flower desires sunlight. The bird desires to sing. The child desires to play. These desires arise naturally from the nature of the thing itself. They're not problems. They're expressions of aliveness. The suffering comes not from desire itself, but from your identification with it, from the belief that you must have what you desire in order to be complete, to be okay, to be at peace. It's the grasping, the clinging, the demand that reality conform to your preferences. That's what disturbs the water. When desire arises and you can observe it, feel it, allow it to be there without becoming it, without making it mean something about your worth or your completeness, then desire flows through you like wind through an open window. It comes, it goes, and you remain at peace. This is what I mean when I say you can't chase peace. The chasing itself is the problem, not what you're chasing. You could be chasing wealth or love or enlightenment or peace itself. The mechanism is the same. You've split yourself in two. You've created the one who is lacking and the thing that will complete you. And in that split, in that fundamental division of yourself, peace becomes impossible. Have you ever noticed how children play? Watch a child completely absorbed in play and you'll see something remarkable. There's no division between the player and the playing. The child is the play. There's no self-consciousness, no commentary running in the background saying, am I playing correctly? Am I having enough fun? Is this the right way to be a child? There's just the pure activity of playing, and in that absorption, there's a kind of peace. Not the absence of energy or excitement, but the absence of internal conflict. We lose this as we grow older. We develop this observer, this commentator, this judge who stands apart from our experience and evaluates it. Is this good enough? Am I doing it right? Should I be feeling something different? And suddenly, we're no longer one with our experience. We're divided against ourselves. We're the wave that's forgotten. It's the ocean. This division is what the old teachers called the ego, though I prefer to just call it the sense of being a separate self. It's not something bad that needs to be destroyed. It's more like a case of mistaken identity. You've mistaken yourself for the character in the story rather than the awareness in which the story appears. You've confused yourself for the wave and forgotten you're the water. And the thing is, you can't get rid of the ego through effort because the one who's trying to get rid of it is the ego itself. It's like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. The eye cannot see itself, the ego cannot eliminate itself, itself, it can only pretend to eliminate itself, which just creates a more subtle form of ego. The spiritual ego, the one who's achieved egolessness. So what's the way out of this funhouse of mirrors? Well, there is no way out because you're not in. The whole thing is an illusion, a dream, a play of consciousness. When you truly see this, not conceptually but directly, the game collapses. Not because you've done something right, but because you've stopped doing the thing that was creating the problem in the first place. Imagine you're watching a scary movie and you're completely absorbed in it. Your heart is racing, your palms are sweating, you're on the edge of your seat. Then someone walks into the room and turns on the lights, and suddenly you remember, oh, it's just a movie. I'm sitting safely in my living room. The monster on the screen doesn't disappear. The movie continues, but your relationship to it has completely changed. You're no longer identified with it. You're no longer lost in it. This is what happens when you wake up to your true nature. The story of your life continues. The character you call yourself keeps going to work, having relationships, experiencing ups and downs. But there's a knowing, a remembering that you're not just the character. You're also the screen on which the character appears. You're the awareness in which the whole play unfolds. And from that perspective, peace is obvious. Not because everything in the story is peaceful, the story might be quite turbulent, but because you're no longer only the story. You're also the vast spaciousness in which the story happens. You're the silence in which all sounds occur. You're the stillness in which all movement takes place. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds wonderful, but how do I get to this perspective? What's the practice? What's the technique? And here we are again, back at the beginning, trying to chase something, trying to get somewhere, trying to become someone who has this realization. But what if there's nothing to get? What if this awareness I'm pointing to is already here, already available, already what you are? What if the only thing preventing you from recognizing it is the very effort to find it? It's like looking for your glasses when they're on your head. The searching itself is what prevents the finding. So instead of asking, how do I get there? Try asking, what if I'm already there? What if peace isn't something I need to achieve, but something I need to stop overlooking? Try this right now. Notice that you're aware. You're aware of these words, aware of your thoughts about these words, aware of whatever sensations are happening in your body, aware of the sounds around you. This awareness, it's already here, isn't it? You're not creating it. You're not achieving it. It's simply here, naturally, effortlessly. This awareness is what you are. Not your thoughts, you're aware of those. Not your feelings, you're aware of those too. Not your body, you're aware of that as well. You're the awareness itself, the consciousness in which all these experiences appear. And this awareness, this consciousness, is always at peace because it's not affected by what appears in it. The screen isn't disturbed by the movie playing on it, the mirror isn't changed by the images it reflects, the ocean isn't harmed by the waves on its surface. When you recognize yourself as this awareness rather than as the contents of awareness, peace is self-evident. It's not something you have to maintain or protect or achieve. It's what you are. And yes, you'll forget this. You'll get lost in the movie again. You'll identify with the character again. That's natural. That's part of the play. But each time you remember, each time you come back to the simple recognition of what you are, it becomes more familiar, more obvious, more natural. The ancient teachers had a wonderful way of expressing this. They'd say, you're like a person who dreams they're a beggar, starving and destitute, when in reality they're a king sleeping in a palace. The dream of being a beggar is very convincing. The hunger feels real, the poverty feels real, but it's a dream, and when you wake up, you don't have to work hard to become a king. You simply recognize that you were the king all along. You were just dreaming you were a beggar. In the same way, you dream that you're this limited, separate individual who must struggle and strive and chase after peace. But what if that's just a dream? What if you're actually the infinite awareness in which this dream of separation appears? You don't have to become that. You don't have to achieve that. You simply have to wake up and recognize what you already are. And waking up doesn't mean the dream ends. You can be awake within the dream. You can know yourself as awareness while still engaging with the play of life. In fact, when you're no longer desperately trying to extract peace from the circumstances of life, you're free to engage with life more fully, more playfully, more lovingly. You're no longer holding back, protecting yourself, trying to control everything to maintain your fragile sense of peace. True peace isn't fragile. It doesn't depend on circumstances. It doesn't come and go based on whether things are going your way. It's the unshakable ground of your being, the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. Whether you're aware of it or not, it's always here, like the sun behind the clouds. The clouds come and go, thoughts, emotions, experiences, circumstances, but the sun remains unchanged. This is what I've been trying to point to in all these words, not to give you something new to chase, not to add another item to your spiritual to-do list, but to help you see that what you're looking for isn't ahead of you. It's right here. It's what's reading these words. It's what's aware right now. It's what you've always been, but somehow overlooked in your desperate search for something more, something different, something other than this. The greatest trick peace ever played was convincing you it was somewhere else, and the greatest gift you can give yourself is to stop believing that trick. Stop right now and notice, is there actually anything wrong with this moment when you're not thinking about what's wrong with it? Is there actually a problem with now when you're not projecting problems onto it? If you look honestly, deeply, you might find that peace has been here all along, hiding in plain sight, waiting patiently for you to stop chasing long enough to notice it. And when you finally do stop, when you finally give up the exhausting project of trying to get somewhere else, you might laugh. You might laugh at the cosmic joke of it all, at how simple it was, at how you spent years searching for your glasses while wearing them. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize that even the searching was part of the peace. Even the chasing was part of the dance. Even the forgetting was necessary for the remembering to be so sweet. Because how would you know the value of stillness if you'd never known restlessness? How would you appreciate peace if you'd never felt its absence? The whole game, the losing and the finding, the forgetting and the remembering, it's all part of the play, all part of the magnificent expression of consciousness exploring itself. So, yes, you've been chasing peace, and every step has taken you further away, but even that has been perfect, even that has been exactly what needed to happen, because now, exhausted from all that chasing, perhaps you're finally ready to stop. Perhaps you're finally ready to collapse into what is, to surrender to this moment as it is, to give up the war against reality. And in that collapse, in that surrender, in that giving up, you might discover something unexpected. You might discover that peace isn't something you find at the end of the journey. Peace is what carries you through the journey. Peace is the ground you've been standing on all along, the space in which all your seeking has occurred, the awareness that has witnessed every moment of your search. You are the peace you've been seeking, not the you that you think you are, not the personality, not the story, not the separate self, but the you that you truly are. The awareness, the consciousness, the presence that is reading these words right now, that you has never not been at peace because peace is its very nature. So welcome home. Not to some distant destination you finally reached after a long journey, but to the home you never left. Welcome to the peace that's been here all along, waiting for you to stop looking elsewhere long enough to recognize it. Welcome to yourself. To what you've always been beneath all the stories, beneath all the seeking, beneath all the forgetting and remembering. You are already home. You are already at peace, and you always have been.